Well, welcome back, everyone, to the final evening of our intern and volunteer training series. We appreciate your dedication to making it to all of the trainings. The attendance to these has been really um, better than almost any series that I can remember. So we really appreciate your dedication to learning more about our services and how we provide services to our clients. Um, Kind of feeling some mixed emotions today, but it feels especially profound to me that tonight is on our youth housing and community support services. Given the violence that we've seen in our community, in particularly directed towards our youth, I'm sure that you all are feeling some big feelings also over the last couple days. And I just wanted to acknowledge that you might be feeling either really motivated to be part of this conversation today and be part of the systems that support youth and community, given what we've kind of experienced as a community. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I also acknowledge that sometimes it's hard to focus when we've, experienced a tragedy in our community. And so I think it's okay to honor that and, take care of yourselves as you're going through this training today. Um, and with us today, we've got two excellent trainers who will work out of the youth and housing and community support services. We've got Brandy. She's one of the managers of a couple of our youth programs, and Madison, who works in both youth and some of our housing community support services. So, would you two both like to say a little bit more about yourself and tell this group who you are?
Yes, I can start. I'm Brandy. I'm the Youth Community Advocacy Manager here at Tubman. I've been here for just over 2 years now. And fun fact about me, I have two cats, which you're going to see soon on the slideshow. These are my cats. The one on your left is named Cheeto, like a flamin' hot Cheeto. That's why he has a red collar. And then Dorito has the blue collar, like Cool Ranch Dorito. Fits their personalities. One is spicy and one's just cool. So these are my cats. If you see them in the background, they probably are going to try to climb things. So I apologize if it's a little chaotic back there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Madison. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a youth and family worker. I work in two different programs. I work part-time at North Star, which is our youth outreach center. And then I'm also a part-time housing case manager with our rapid rehousing program that we have in Hennepin County. I'm going to be talking about both of those programs today. I also have two cats. They're also in the slideshow, so you'll see them eventually too. Might terrorize me while I'm doing this meeting. I'm hoping he leaves me alone. But he's a kitten and he loves attention. So we're gonna see how this goes. But really excited to talk to you guys. Also, I just want to reiterate some of the things that Katie said about how you're feeling your feelings about youth and about the community right now, and also give you some suggestions if you guys are interested. So if you're interested, there's a couple different funds going around for people in the community who are in need right now, especially families who are facing possible funeral arrangements and things like that. There's a lot of communities that are sourcing funds for that right now. We can send those to you later on if you guys are interested as well. Minnesota is now in a blood shortage due to the shootings because many youth were in need of blood. And so now Minnesota is in a blood shortage. So if any other injuries or major events were to happen right now, there may not be a blood supply for people available. So if you can and are able, I would recommend donating blood. There's doing mobile services and local blood banks in your areas. I'm going to be donating blood in a couple of weeks, and I definitely recommend doing it if you're able. And again, those are things that we can send out in the follow-up email that Joni's going to send out eventually, but I just wanted to bring it up again.
Okay, so we are going to get started, we are going to go through the overview of tonight. So we're going to talk about three kind of subsets, I'll say. We have our youth programs, which includes our violence prevention and intervention, our school-based classroom presentation, support and outreach, leadership opportunities. And then we'll go into housing programs. So our rapid rehousing program, Madison will talk about some of these, the youth community-based housing, and then our safe journeys transitional housing. And then we will move into our community support services, so our resource advocates, support groups, and then our jobs, education, and finance, which we shorten to Jeff sometimes. So if you ever hear people talking about somebody named Jeff, you might want to say, is that an actual person, or are we talking about like the team of people that work with Jeff? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Does anybody have any questions right off the bat? You're also welcome to put them in the chat, unmute yourself, and just hop in at any point. Interrupt me if you would like. I'm totally used to that with being in the schools, so however you would like to ask questions, you are welcome to do so.
I have a youth who needs Jeff.
We will take note of that. Thank you for commenting. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we get into the youth community advocacy? Cool. So as you heard, I'm our youth community advocacy manager, and so we have three kind of different programs underneath that umbrella term. And so the first one is Voices in Prevention. We often abbreviate that as VIP. So it doesn't stand for very important person, but to us it's Voices in Prevention, and that is our in-school violence prevention curriculum. And then we have our Movement for Violence Prevention, which is more so our youth leadership group. So we do talk about some of those same things in the Voices in Prevention group. And then that gets a little bit more into maybe a special project they want to do based on that, or more leadership-based projects. And then we also have our Inspiring Youth program. That is a mentorship program. I'll go more into depth on that in a few slides. And then our outreach center is North Star Youth Outreach Center, and that's located in the Maplewood Mall, which Madison will talk more about later as well. So to start off with our Voices in Prevention, like I said, that's abbreviated as VIP. This is our in-school violence prevention curriculum, and so it's talking about healthy relationships and violence prevention. We talk about 6 different topics, so it's a 6-lesson curriculum. It started in 1991 when a local educator identified that this wasn't really something that all schools or many schools will talk about, specifically in things like health class when you're talking about relationships and things of that nature. And so we created it, and it focuses on activities, discussions. We play a lot of interactive games. We always bring candy. It is an effective bribe for students when you say, I'll give you a piece of candy if you answer this question. And we are usually in middle and high schools. That is the majority of where we are at. But just actually this upcoming school year, we're going to be going to a couple of elementary schools, more so than we usually do. So that is an interesting kind of switch. There is only 1.5 of us that do school presentations. So if you don't see a lot of us, it's usually because we're out in the schools and we're not really at maybe the office locations. And our 6-lesson topics. So the first lesson, it's all about healthy and unhealthy relationships. So we will talk about maybe traits or characteristics that you would like in a partner, or a friend. And then we talk about the types of abuse. And then the second lesson, we talk about empathy. So we read some stories, have youth put themselves in the shoes of the main characters in those stories. And then we talk about, for the third one, stereotypes and gender roles, and how stereotypes about gender roles can impact relationships and relationship violence. And then our fourth, sorry. I'm getting lost in my head. Our fourth topic is all about emotions. So they'll think about, what is an emotion? What are emotions I've had today? How do I process my emotions? They do a little coloring sheet where they kind of think about, what's something that's maybe upset or angry? How did I feel about that? Did I have any negative thoughts or feelings about the situation? Then our fifth topic is communication. And so we'll talk about how do you communicate with other people? What's your conflict style? Again, lots of games, listening games. And then our last topic is all about resources that youth might have in their lives or in the community for things like relationship violence, but also just general to youth, not maybe specifically to relationship violence. And so we provide them not only in schools, but it could be learning centers, maybe college, university, maybe elementary school, like I mentioned. And then we focus in Hennepin, Ramsey, and Washington counties. So we're kind of all over the place. Wherever schools would like us to go, we go. It changes year to year, and we try to get as many as we can, but generally our capacity cannot match the demand. So usually we are, unfortunately, sometimes having to say no to schools because there is only 1.5 of us. But hopefully there will be more of us soon. That's my little we should hire more people thing. We serve about 40 schools in a year. So we see them usually about 4 to 6 times. I'm sorry, that was my cat. That was just meowing if you heard that. Um, so yeah. I think we can go to the next slide. So these are some quotes from students that have gone through our in-school curriculum. So they think it is usually inclusive, never scared to ask for help. They say they learn a lot about relationships or how to help other people. And so we usually get some feedback through some surveys. We'll do like some pre and post test surveys to gauge learning and knowledge, but then we also will give them an opinion survey because arguably that's the one that's the most important. Do you like this? Do you think it's relevant? Is it helpful? And so these quotes all come from those opinion surveys. Okay, so the other kind of side of this same coin, I would say, is our movement for violence prevention. And like I said, this is our leadership training sessions for youth and young adults. So typically these youth have gone through the Voices in Prevention, so the VIP program in school, and kind of want to expand on that and maybe do a service project, and then they want some mentorship and leadership involving that project. And so we can do that virtually and in person. Usually we're just arranging a time with youth to meet, usually about 6 times or so. Whatever youth feels like they want to do, we try to support. And I would be the contact for that. So that's my name and phone number. And then my email is bhar, so just the first initial, and then my last name at tubman.org. I will say that that is going to be changing soon. I'm getting married, so my last name will be changing. So if you ever feel like you can't find me, it might be because my name and email has switched over, but I will let everybody know when that actually happens. So every year in our program, we like to host a poster contest. And so these are some of the examples of posters that we've had from submissions from the last couple years. So in February, which is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we host a poster contest where youth in the community can create a poster or a video about maybe healthy relationships or on the topic of domestic violence or relationship violence. And then we have staff and other youth vote on which posters and videos they like the most. And then we always like to publish them, as you've seen here, if we are allowed, so that others can see the wonderful works of art that we acquire. Okay. Before I get into the Inspiring Youth Program, does anybody have any questions about Voices in Prevention or movement for violence prevention? No. Cool. Um, So we are going to talk about the Inspiring Youth Program now, which is the other program that I manage. So as I mentioned, this is kind of like a mentorship program. So it's in-home case management for youth ages 10 to 17 and their families in both Hennepin and Ramsey County. It has kind of been a partnership between the City of Minneapolis Health Department, public schools, and then us at Tubman. And so we serve youth and families by supporting goals that the youth have identified. So maybe that might be something related to school attendance or grades. Maybe it's something involving wanting to get a driver's permit, driver's license, behind the wheel, something like that. Maybe they identify they would like to get a job. Whatever the youth identify as their goals or their family helps identify as a goal is something that our mentors will work with them on. And so that is usually a one-on-one relationship. So each youth gets assigned to one of our staff, and then they meet with those youth once a week for about an hour up to a year. They can do less than that if they'd like, but the typical length is a year. And so that is comprehensive. It's trauma-informed support of the individualized youth goals. And then our staff can get them connected to other resources in the community. Maybe it's other school support staff or jobs in the community places that typically hire youth. Um, and so that is the Inspiring Youth Program. It is also my contact down there. And then we do take online referrals for the program. So that would be the link down there if any youth are ever interested in that. Currently, at this time, our staff are almost full with youth. We did just have a staff depart our team, so we're one person down right now. But we still have a couple of spaces open, so. Any questions about the Inspiring Youth Program? Cool, we can go on to the next slide.
All right, let's talk about North Star. So North Star Youth Outreach Center is currently located at the Maplewood Mall. We are through door 2, which is right across from the Transit Center. It's across the street from the McDonald's. That's the best way to explain it. So we do a lot of short-term case management through North Star. It's a lot of short-term drop-in services, but we do things with youth and individuals like safety planning, support and advocacy, career, financial, and educational services. We're serving kids that are 10 to 24, so we have a broad age range. And not only that, but a lot of our older end of the youth, they often have littles, so we have youth that are parenting too. So we have a plethora of ages that are often going through North Star. And we try to serve as many and as many age ranges as we can possible. So we're constantly trying to do our best to serve the youth that are constantly coming in. We have things that are on site that are like snacks, supplies, and laundry services. We have hygiene products that are on site. We have clothing that is on site. We have just different like random hygiene products that they may need, like a toothbrush with a toothbrush cover and toothpaste, and sometimes we'll get donations of like cool items like a hair dryer or a curling iron and like different brushes for different hair types and things like that. And so those are the kind of things that we are sourcing together to try and give out to our youth. We also have some things like we have air mattresses with sheets. We've bought camping equipment before because some people are often in the streets and they need things for their sites that they're staying in. So those are some things that we provide. We also can provide other financial services. Like we do bus cards monthly and we do cup gift cards monthly that we give out to the youth. They can receive those items once a month and come in every 30 days and get a new one if they need it. We have a computer lab on site, so that's space for youth to come in if they need it. A lot of the time, I'm helping youth do like job searches and things like that, and it's helpful to have a computer there so that they can look at those things. And also some people are doing housing searches and things like that. And then also some people are just playing computer games or watching YouTube videos, and the computer lab is good for either of those things. We have creative art spaces and also like board game areas and a TV. We have space for people to create stuff, to play games, to be social, to hang out, and just kind of be, because especially in a space like a mall, where sometimes they crack down on loitering in a mall, especially when it's youth who may be making troublesome decisions. North Star is a good space for them to come in and just have a place to hang out while they're at the mall and looking for something to do. We also have different program activities. We do different things. We are doing a back to school event that's going to be, I think it is tomorrow. The back to school event is tomorrow. And we're going to be giving out backpacks. We're going to be doing, backpacks, and we're going to be doing different items that kids may need going back to school. Question in the chat. You mentioned working with youth that are also parents. Are there parent education resources? So we don't do any direct services like parenting classes or things like that. We do have different programs that we refer them out to, though, and we also have different resources that we keep handy on us that are specific for parenting youth. We have an often updated resource list of like diaper banks, places where people can get formula, and places where people can get other outside resources that we may not be able to directly provide through us. Something recently that's been super helpful to us is people have been donating baby clothes to us so that we have clothes for parenting youth to come and take. So that's something that's been helpful to us so far. And yeah, so that's kind of the most that we do in that sense of helping parenting youth outside of our normal programming is like we just kind of resource gather and refer people out to as many resources as they can, specific to those. And if you have any, like, if you know of any parenting resources that are in the Twin City areas or the Maplewood, like, neighborhood specifically, we're always looking for new resources. So please let us know. But that's pretty much what we do in the realm of helping people who are youth that are parents. Back to program activities. We do things like Friendsgiving. We're doing the back to school event. I held an event in May where we did May Day baskets and kids made May Day baskets. We did a Valentine's Day event. We try to do as many events as possible. And it kind of depends on when the youth are available, which is kind of the tit for tat with having drop-in services of some people are available and some people aren't. And now that school's starting back up again, we also have to take that into consideration that a lot of the youth that are under 18 are going to be in school again, and they're not going to be able to access us during our morning and early afternoon hours. So making sure that we're getting them what they need in the evenings and later afternoons. So, but yeah. So our current hours are, our volunteers fluctuate. Some of you may be North Star volunteers or not, but our volunteers have been fluctuating lately. So I'm not actually sure what our current hours are, but they are on our website. And you should also check out our website because we have things about like donations and stuff like that. Also, there's a video on there touring the space. I made that video, so you should definitely watch it. They asked me to clip something together, so I did that. So you should definitely look at that. But yeah, so that's kind of the stuff that we have going on at North Star. Does anyone else have any questions about North Star? Oh yeah, yeah. An artist came by and did an event with us, and they did a really cool job just hanging out with the youth and getting them to be creative. We do a lot of stuff like that off and on, like I said. The kids that come through are really, really awesome. We actually, we tried to do a joint event recently around art, where there was a bunch of artists who were painting murals in the Maplewood Mall. And they were asking for kids to come help. And like they were asking for kids to come help them paint these walls and stuff like that. And we had a group of kids who did come in, and they ended up painting one of the murals in the mall, and they got to sign at the end. And so their little names are in the corner of the mall with the artist's name and everything. So really cool stuff. A lot of creative kids.
Okay, so kind of jumping back to the VIP and MVP program. This is our website that was created with the assistance of youth, and it's for youth. And then we just kind of support it. And so it includes some blog posts, some quizzes, some pictures of the poster and video contest submissions on there as well. And it's just kind of a website that is all for the youth. And we like to have youth help create things that are on there. So if anybody knows anybody that would like to make a blog or do something, or maybe create a photographic, even if it's not during our poster contest, we'd love to put it on there and share it with the world.
All right, so let's go through all of our housing programs. This is going to be a lot of information. There's a lot of different info that goes into housing, so please interrupt me if you have questions, whether that's in the chat, over camera, whatever you need to do. But there's a lot of confusing stuff that goes into housing, so please just let me know. But the housing programs that Tubman has, there's a lot of different housing programs in general, but the 3 different housing programs that we have is we have a rapid rehousing program through Hennepin County, which is what I do, and I'm a case manager in. We have a youth community-based housing program, which is also a rapid rehousing program, but is in a different area. And then we also have our Safe Journeys housing program, which is our transitional youth housing program. So let's get into it. So first we have our rapid rehousing program, and that's through Hennepin County. So kind of what is rapid rehousing? We provide short-term rental assistance and services. We provide services up to 2 years. Usually people are in the program from 1 to 2 years, and then we do 6 months of exit services after that. In that time, we don't provide any financial assistance, but we do provide that case management and support, and helping them transition from having rental assistance to not having rental assistance. During the program, we are making goals. We are constantly trying to help people obtain housing, increase self-sufficiency, and helping them stay housed. The whole point of the program is to get people housed as quickly as we can so that they can be financially stable as soon as possible, so that they can maintain that financial stability. It is offered without any preconditions. So it doesn't matter if you're working, it doesn't matter if you have a criminal record, it doesn't matter if you are in addiction, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you have children, like all of these things, none of that kind of matters. If you are a part of our program, then you are a part of our program. Resources and services provided are typically tailored to the needs of the person. We're a client-centered program. So we're constantly paying attention to the needs of the client and paying attention to the direction of what the client wants to do. Every single one of our clients are people that are fleeing domestic violence situations. So whether that's family violence, intimate partner violence, any form of it, they're fleeing violence, and they are often, these people their autonomy has been taken away from them. So our program is all about giving them that autonomy back and giving them those choices back, so that they can make decisions for themselves. And if they have a family, being able to make decisions for their family as well. So we're often kind of just going whatever route they want to take, whether that's housing first, maybe they have legal issues that they need to deal with first, maybe they need to deal with mental and physical health things first. We're going at whatever pace and whatever direction the client needs at that time in that moment. So we're located in scattered site housing throughout Hennepin County. Like I said, so we don't have like any specific apartment complexes. I want to make that clear. We are reaching out to landlords that are within the Hennepin County community and asking them, hey, would you take rental subsidy? If we offer you this letter of guarantee, and asking them if they're willing to work with our program, like having us being able to inspect the apartments for HUD inspections, and adding VAWA language to their lease, which VAWA is the I can't remember the
Violence Against Women's Act.
Violence Against Women's Act, and it is a state law that allows people who are fleeing domestic violence and housing situations to be able to break their lease and flee their apartment situation. And so we is making sure people have VAWA language in their apartment, in their leases. And if the apartments are willing to check all those boxes, then we are able to put our clients into those housing and work with those landlords to make sure that our client is safe, and also work with them to make sure that our client is paying their rents and making sure they're working towards that financial stability piece. Like I said, it's up to 2 years of support with the extra 6 months of exit services. We do income-based rental assistance and case management services. So when it comes to income, we calculate 30% of the individual's income. If that's zero income, then it's zero. And if they make a certain amount, then we take 30% of their income, and that's the amount that they pay in rent, and then we pay the rest in subsidy. And then we also do case management services. We help with searching for jobs, finding education opportunities, helping them sign up for education opportunities. I've helped people sign up for Social Security. I've helped people sign up for Medicaid. We do a lot of that different kind of like case management stuff that people may need assistance with or support with, and they've never been able to find that support before, and they need help navigating those kind of fields in that area. So we are serving youth and adults. We serve anyone ages 18 and up. My youngest client is around 18 and my oldest client is around 55. So like broad spectrum of people that are constantly going through our caseload. And yeah, so we receive referrals through the Hennepin County Coordinated Entry. Those who are fleeing domestic violence, they are going to go get a housing assessment if they are trying to get on a housing list. Housing assessments can be done at shelters. They can also be done at places like People Serving People, at Face to Face. There's DAP is another one that does referrals. Cornerstone does referrals both through their psych and their shelter areas. So a lot of these organizations are doing housing assessments, and they are being put into the coordinated entry system. If they are fleeing domestic violence, then they are flagged towards us if we are asking for a referral. And once we ask for the referral, they send that person to us. We receive their contact information, and then we reach out to them as soon as possible in order to get the intake process started, in order to get started on housing and trying to help them in their process of wherever they're at in their situation. So that's kind of how all of that goes when it comes to rapid rehousing. The contact for rapid rehousing is going to be my supervisor, Carla. She's a wonderful woman, wonderful supervisor, and does a really good job with the rapid rehousing program. Does anyone have any questions about rapid rehousing before we move on to the next one?
If somebody has a client they're working with in another program who they feel like could maybe benefit from this, do they actually call Carla at this number?
Yeah, I would probably say reach out to Carla, just because Carla would be able to inform you about like next steps of like how would we get them into that system, and how like would we get them referred in the process. I know that in general, Tubman is trying to work on getting some more staff members signed up as housing assessors in general so that we can do more housing assessments on site. But that's a work in progress and everyone's trying to work towards that. But as for right now, yeah, Carla would probably be someone to contact just so that she can walk anyone through the process of how to get them connected with our program. Any other questions? Do you have landlords that you already work with that you suggest to clients? Yes, we do. I probably have a handful of landlords that I've like worked really well with previously. That they've been really kind to me, really kind to my clients, have had really good communication, and are overall just kind of pushing to make sure that they can get my client into their housing as soon as possible. And those are the kind of landlords that we're looking for, like the landlords that are looking to lead our situations with a empathetic approach and trying to make sure that we are trying to help the client as fast as we can. So yes, I do have a few landlords. I have a couple different like just property management companies that I look for in general. If people are like, hey, I want in an apartment in Northeast Minneapolis, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna check this website and this website and this website first to make sure to see if anything's open with those property management companies. If it's not open, then okay, I know a couple like individual landlords that have had open apartments recently. Let's check out those first. And then after all of that, you go to apartments.com and you cold call people and hope that they can answer your questions. And if they don't, you ask for a supervisor to answer your questions. And hopefully after all of that, they say yes to all your questions and you're like, okay, I'd like to set up a tour. So a lot of it goes into it, but I try to resource what from the places I know first. Do we work with any sober homes or sober living alternatives at all? We don't have any directly that we're working with right now. I know that we have worked with some in the past. It's kind of hard because sometimes they have separate funding for themselves. So often it would be like an overlapping of funding. And we wouldn't be able to do that, if that makes sense. It kind of all depends where federal grants come from and like whether they like cancel each other out or not. But previously before we have worked with different housing providers, trying to work with them together to try and get a client into housing, and whether that was going to be that housing provider helping them like and this person was looking for like sobriety living, and it was like whether this other like housing provider ended up being the person to provide their funding or it was us. We were just both kind of working together to try and finding them housing. Because they also were someone that maybe would need permanent supportive housing, which is a form of housing that we don't provide. So I'm not going to talk about it very much today. But people who are in permanent supporting housing living situations are people that need a lot of care and people who need financial support that's ongoing and things like that. And that's more of a long-term sort of form of living. And we don't have that in our programming. So it's kind of a back and forth between that. But yeah, the big thing is just trying to make sure that no funding overlaps. So we're not against working with sober homes or like sober living homes and things like that, as long as our funding can reach their programming and that like nothing overlaps or hurts each other in the process. Any other questions? Sick. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is the youth community-based housing program. So this is also a form of a rapid rehousing program. It serves youth and young adults. So it's going to be having people, including parenting youth, between the ages of 16 to 24. Though I do know that sometimes they work with folks that may be a little bit younger, depending on where they are at and where they are needed. But so those are the ages of the people that are often in the youth community-based housing program. They're also located in scattered site apartments, serving in the suburban metro counties. So they are different than me. So because my rapid rehousing department, we do through Hennepin County, and the youth community-based housing program, they receive the referrals through the suburban metro area continuum of care, which is called SMAC. And the SMAP counties are going to be the smaller suburban counties that are outlying in the cities, which are going to be Washington, Dakota, and Anoka counties. So those youth communities-based housing sites are going to be located in those areas. And the clients receive support with income-based rental assistance along with case management services. It's really, really similar to the rapid rehousing program that we already have in Hennepin County. The difference is that it's only youth that are in this program and that it's going to be in different counties kind of area. But they provide the same up to 2 years of support with the 6 months of exit services. They provide similar case management things that I brought up before, like job searching, education services, helping out with those kinds of things, resource gathering, all of those aspects. For all these housing programs, what is the average turnaround time from time of referral to move-in date? Does it vary by program? You're so right. There are so many factors that kind of go into that. One of my first ever clients that I got for housing, I moved them in within a month of getting their referral, which is really, really fast. And I got them intakes. We found an apartment almost immediately. And they were originally declined from the apartment, but then we were able to write a letter and get everything sorted out. And they were then accepted in the apartment. We signed the lease. It was done very quick. And then I had high expectations for pretty much every other client I've ever had after that. And that is not the case, I can tell you, because sometimes from intake to apartments, it ends up being like 4 months, and it takes that long because you're having failure after failure after failure. And also some people, their immediate first thing isn't that they are moving into apartments. Like I had one client, she was going through a lot of things legally that she needed help with first. And her priority was not finding new housing because she had a semi-stable, like part-time arrangement with her family members. She was staying with her sister, so she could, and her sister was okay with her staying with her for a bit. So it was like, well, let's tackle some of these legal issues first so that we can help you with your abuser situation before we kind of tackle that housing piece, because you're in a safe place right now and we don't need to, like, let's focus on your safety in the aspect legally first. Let's get this order of protection. Let's get these things that we need done first so that we can guarantee your safety when we do move you into a new place. And that way we have these kind of safety planning pieces that we wanted to plan ahead for. And also, like, some clients, they are being financially abused. So we have to kind of dig ourselves through their financial abuse records and walk through their financials and things like that, because some apartments might say no to them because their credit score is low or things like that. And so we kind of have to look at their background and see if, like, they've been financially abused recently, and like, how can we rectify that? Maybe we have to rectify it first before we do in an apartment, get into an apartment. Should we freeze your credit? Like, should we apply for apartments then freeze your credit? Should we there's a new law in the state of Minnesota in which domestic violence advocates can now write affidavits to crediting companies explaining that their clients have been financially abused and that we need this taken off their credit report. And like, so do we need to do something like that, as extreme as that? So there's a lot of pieces that may go into that before we get to the housing. But like I said, it can go as quick as I've experienced, as quick as 1 month and as long as 4 months. One of my coworkers I know has taken like up to 6 months to house someone before because they had such an issue with it. What happens if a client that doesn't have any credit, thinking, yeah, clients that are young. So often you have to find landlords that are willing to work with people who are first time renters and people who have little to no credit history. Thankfully, a lot of landlords, once you write them a letter of guarantee that says that, hey, we're paying a majority of the rent, and also if they can't pay their rent, we'll help them pay that rent, or like we'll find them a resource that will help them pay that rent. And like if we write that in a letter promising them that will provide that, a lot of the time these landlords will let that slide. They'll be like, okay, that's fine, like let's see how that goes. And then while they're within the program, you have to work with them on, hey, we need to start your credit history, we need to start, like, how can we do these things without endangering yourself financially? What does lines of credit look like? How can you get lines of credit? Does it mean just a credit card? Like, or is that rent rebate? Is it utility rebate? Is it different programs that help you gain credit? Is it applying different loans to your concept? Like, it's like we really have to dig deep and see how they can grow their credit. And we'll get into it later, but we have financial volunteers who can help with that concept, who are like experts in this field. Like, I'll be honest, I'm only 25, so I'm totally not an expert in this field. But like I'm constantly looking for information and referrals and resources for my clients so that they can work on that credit piece and that financial piece when they're when they're going through this journey in their process. Okay, totally reverting back to youth community-based housing specifically. So this program is like I said, a rapid rehousing program. And the contact for it is going to be Dolores Castillo. That's her phone number. And but it's going to be connected to our next program that I'm going to talk about, which is going to be our Safe Journeys program. So Safe Journeys is transitional housing for youth and young adults ages 13 to 24 and their children. I brought up them being connected, the Safe Journeys and the community-based housing program, because they are a joint transitional and rapid rehousing program. So often those who start in Safe Journeys, especially when, like I said, when they're the 16 to 24 age, when they're within that age range and they've been working through the Safe Journeys program, where they've been getting a lot of support and they feel the need that they can transition out of that program and transition into a more a different program in which they would take on more responsibility. They would transition into the community-based program, and they're able to do that through that joint partnership through those programs. So we've had plenty of kids who have started in Safe Journeys and they've spent a year in the program and they're like, okay, I think I'm ready to move on to maybe having a little bit more responsibility and moving out. So Safe Journeys is located on the 5th floor of Tubman East. It's a part of the shelter. It is a space that is only for youth. Everyone on the floor is youth, and everyone that can access the space is either a youth worker or one of the youth that lives up there. Now this is, like I said, it is a transitional program, so they receive like full support. They receive like full financial support. They receive full like kind of all around needs support. They are living in the shelter, so they're receiving all the things that they may need during their time in the shelter. And that's a lot different, like I said, from the rapid rehousing programs, because those in the rapid rehousing programs, they're living in actual apartments. They're living, they're having to get jobs. They're like having to receive, like to work on these things individually. And outside of like this outside of that full support scope, so they kind of have to like figure out how they can do things for themselves while also receiving that additional support. Whereas in this transitional housing program, these people are often very young, and so they are often taking this time to receive the support that they may need so that they can figure out their next steps. And those living in there, like I said, there's 16 units. Young and young adults can stay up to 2 years. And again, the contact is going to be Dolores for that one. A lot of the youth that are in there, they frequent other programming with throughout Tubman. Safe Journeys participants I've seen at North Star before. And I don't know if they have, if any Safe Journeys participants have ever been an inspiring youth person, but I do know that there's a lot of interest in that kind of cross programming. But a lot of these kids are something cool about the program is that these kids are also, so even though they are receiving that full supportive housing piece, they are often receiving, so they're still getting that rental history kind of piece because they do have to sign leases to live in their units that are in the Safe Journeys floor. So like it's not like that when you're in normal shelter, like you're just a part of the shelter, versus when you're leasing in Safe Journeys, they actually have you sign a lease, and that starts a good rental history kind of notice. So that when these kids are exited from the transitional housing program, they're at least leaving with like this concept of good rental history and being able to show that with any future landlords that they may be coming in contact with later on. Yeah, so that's kind of like the big things about Safe Journeys. Does anyone have any questions about that? This is my cat Apollo. This is my cat Ajax. He's my older cat. He's about 5 years old. Anyways, does anyone have any more questions about any of the housing programs? Thank you. He's my little cuddle bug. As a youth advocate at Outreach, can I refer a youth to Safe Journeys? So I would definitely, thank you. Thank you. My cat is so cute. So as a youth advocate at Outreach, can I refer a youth to Safe Journeys? I would refer them to Dolores, because she would know firsthand on, do we have openings? The first concern is always, do we have openings in Safe Journeys? Because like I said, there's only 16 units, so it's constantly packed. Like there's constantly youth that are going into this program. So definitely, you should check in with Dolores first to see if there's anyone there. And then also, I think Dolores is someone who is working on housing assessment like certification. So she would also be someone to talk to if like you had a youth who needed a housing assessment and how they could get a direct housing assessment with Safe Journeys. So definitely reach out to Dolores for any questions that you have when referring it. And Heavens responded saying that it's currently full, which totally makes sense. And I totally believe, because like I said, it's always full. Anyone else have any questions? Sick. Okay, cool. Hold on one second. We're gonna go into our first imaginative activity. So get ready, because we're gonna get ready to go into breakout rooms. I just want to prep everyone and say that like if we could take the time to come off camera and just like maybe reintroduce ourselves to the group. I know that y'all haven't seen each other like in person in a couple weeks, so like just say, hey, my name is, I'm volunteering with or new staff person for blah blah blah, whatever you need to do to identify yourself. And just say hey really quick, and then kind of just talk about the prompt that we have here. I'm gonna walk through it, and then we're gonna take you over to the breakout rooms. After the breakout rooms, y'all are gonna come back. We're gonna have a poll, and we're gonna talk about it. Let's go through this first prompt, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Okay, so first imaginative activity. So you are a 16-year-old. You've been arguing a lot with your parents about your sexuality, and things have been getting really intense at home. One night your parents tell you to get out. You're trying to reason with them, but they say that they are tired of dealing with you. You don't have any other family that live in Minnesota. You have friends that live in Minneapolis, but none in the suburbs where you currently live. You have $20, a cell phone, and a backpack with clothes. What would be your top priorities and how would you get your needs met? Give me 1 second. I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat before y'all go so that y'all have it. Okay. Can you send out the poll?
Yes, I will launch the poll. Everybody's back, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, brilliant. One second.
Can you see that, Madison?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can see it
You want to
too.
read it off just in case anybody is like on
Yeah.
their phones?
So just again for the imaginative activity, so what would your priorities be? Transportation, school, money, shelter slash housing, food, or something else? Put it in the chat.
And you can pick more than one too. It's not just
Yes.
single choice, it's multiple choice or multi-box.
Yeah, like you
The
can
word
click
for that
the
is
whole
for.
thing. Yeah. All right. It looks like the top ones were shelter slash housing, transportation also being up there, and then food, money, and then school. And then we also had someone answer safety in the chat. So overall, these are all correct answers. Like these are all worries that people should be worrying about. Something that we often see after this poll, which I think comes up quite a bit in general in work with youth, is that school is always one of the lowest voted categories in this instance. But me and Brandy, I feel like always feel the need to bring up that school is definitely a priority. At least it should be, in the sense of school is a space in which there are safe adults that are available to these students. School has a space where they have meals that are provided to them. School is a space in which that's where their friends and their community are. Those are where their extracurriculars are. That's where their activities, their creative outlets, all of those things are often in their schools. For youth and for people that are young, often school is like their whole life. So school is like a very large priority. And making sure that those that kids can access school and all the resources that can be provided to them through their school is definitely really, really important. What are some of the other things that y'all talked about in your meetings? You can put it in the chat, or if you want to come on off mute and talk about it. Is there anything that like people specifically brought up in their breakouts? Yeah, Addie.
We talked about like different resources and different hotlines that people could call. So like obviously
Yeah.
Tubman has like a plenty of hotlines, but
Yeah.
also like the non-emergency police line, and things like that of like,
Yeah.
okay, can somebody get me to and from? Can somebody get me housing for the night? Like just anything to try to figure out like what needs do I need to prioritize and how do I get them? Like who do I call?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Does anyone else have anything? I know something that we stress pretty heavy at North Star is having people download the YSN app, the Youth Services Network app, because they often have the youth shelters that have availabilities right on their pages, and they're updated frequently, so you know what shelters are available for people, for youth specifically. Phone charger, yes. Phone charger to have access to the phone, yes. Internet communication, yes. Phone chargers are important, and yes, 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 yes. Something that a resource that I always like to identify to people that I think some people forget, is your local public library. You should always access your local public library because they have things like phone chargers, and they have computers for you to access, and they have internet for you to access, and they have a safe place for you to rest and figure out what you need. They also often have posters and referral pages and resources that are available to you in libraries that are all geared mainly towards youth, but also for adults as well. Often libraries are on bus lines, so they're easily to be accessed by public transit, and they're open during long hours, so people are able to access them at odd times and odd hours, and it's available for them in that way. So please use your local library, or places like North Star for youth is often a good place to go, especially because we're on a transit line and we're available for kids to be able to drop in like that, because we also have things like phone chargers and resources and things like that. Does anyone else have anything on this activity? Anything else they talked about? Something kind of important that we want to take a look at also is their safety planning. A youth who's thrown out at night trying to figure out where they are, what are their safety steps? What are safety tips that they can take? How can they protect themselves and their being? So often walking through like how they would be safe in those situations, and what are next steps, and how they can continue being safe while they're maybe continuing to be unhoused in that situation. So making sure that safety is a priority is definitely important. I know Erin brought that up in the comments. Is it legal for a parent to kick out their child at 16? It doesn't really matter if it's legal because it happens. But really kids in the state of Minnesota, so emancipation doesn't happen, like it doesn't exist in the state of Minnesota. So a youth can basically declare themselves their own head of household whenever they want to in the state of Minnesota, based on what their living situation is like. So if they are experiencing abuse, if they are being neglected, if they are runaways, if they are people that are being kicked out of their homes, they can declare themselves as their own heads of household, and they can start to move towards being an adult in their situation. That's why you'll often see so many youth housing programs in the Twin Cities, because there are so many youth who unfortunately have to declare themselves as their own heads of household and have to declare themselves in those situations. And the legality of it is kind of a deeper kind of sense, because there's a lot of things that go into legality and what charges can be pushed through, and like how many strikes it gets to actual like jail time. I could go into it a lot deeply, but that's more of a legal sense, a legal question. But yeah, it's definitely something that they have to navigate. But yeah, youth can declare themselves as their own heads of household if they're experiencing those things. Talked about friends first to find a place to stay, reaching out to family, even out of state, if they could offer temporary financial support, absolutely. Or emotional support if the relationships are there, absolutely. I think reaching out to your community, whether that's close or far away, is super, super important, and trying to find any support that you can. often when we're doing client-centered work, it's often about 3 different circles. There's those people that you choose in your life. There's the people that are a part of your inner circle. And then and then there's you. So you are the person that is in charge of everything. And then and then there's the people you choose, which often end up being like caseworkers or people that you're working with and trying to help you out and support you in that way. And then there's the people of your chosen circle, which are the people that are your family that are in support of you, that are your friends, that are those people that are like constantly in support of you, whether they're close or far away from you, and how they can support you is up to them and what they do. But it's often really important to use those supports and use those resources because those are often your community and the people that you identify with the most. I also think about kids in rural Minnesota because a lot of these supports are not offered to them. And when I was a teen growing up in rural Minnesota, when I had to flee the home a lot, I would just walk across town in the middle of the night to stay with friends and family, but I didn't have any family in town. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really hard in those rural areas. And I come from a place that was in a rural area too. So I was originally born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, but when I was when I was middle school age, my family moved to central Iowa, to a town of 8,000 people. And it was very, very rural and very, very different than anything I'd ever experienced before. And it was a lot different experiencing this kind of like food insecurity and housing insecurity and like things like that in a space that didn't have as many ready available resources that are near you. I mean, the closest hospital to my town was 45 minutes away. Like that's how disparaged like some communities in like rural areas are. I think that the main concern is that when we're thinking about those rural communities is referring them to the closest possible resource that they can access, making sure that you can give them as many accessible resources that are through online or through phone or that can be met with virtually because often those are going to be things that they can access the most. But yeah, it's a really hard concept. It's, I think, something we're all navigating, especially during this time in which we're all experiencing hardships. But some people have more resources available to them than others. But yeah, it's definitely more difficult for youth in rural areas to receive these kinds of resources. Thanks for bringing that up, Shelby. Anyone else have anything for this one before we move on? Awesome. Thanks for all your input, guys.
Okay, now we're going to move into the community support services. So this is going to be about our resource advocates, the Pieces of Peace support group, and then jobs, education, and finance services, otherwise referred to as Jeff sometimes. So our resource advocates, I'm sure we have maybe some here in the group that are going to be resource advocates. It's usually a big portion of the groups that we have for training. So we appreciate you all. You do such great work. The resource advocates here provide safety planning, resources, and referrals to both Tubman programs, but also externally. Sometimes too, they have a wonderful list of just everything you could probably think of. Maybe it's clothing resources, free clothing, maybe it's school supplies, really anything that somebody might be looking for support for. They always have a really nice little binder of various things that are going on. And so they assist clients in accessing services, like I said, both at Tubman, but sometimes it might need to be a referral out to someplace else. And they are located at Tubman Chrysalis. They have a nice little room to themselves. If you've been there, I'm sure you've been by the room. It's always a very calm feeling when you walk by there, and it is staffed by interns, volunteers, and support staff. Currently, the hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 8, and then Fridays, 8 to 5. And you can contact resource advocates using that phone number there.
All right, so next we have the Pieces of Peace support group. It's a drop-in free support group. People of all gender identities are welcome. These are people and individuals who are or who have experienced relationship abuse, including emotional, verbal, physical, sexual, or financial abuse. All of the participants are all in different stages, and all are welcome no matter what stage you're in. There's people who are still in abusive relationships. There are people that are many years out of abusive relationship and have fully moved on and are just there to kind of help other people in their journeys through their going through their situation. But a lot of the time it's just a space to be available and to have conversation and be able to talk about their experiences. It's facilitated by volunteers. It's a really cool program. You can sign up for free on our website. You just got to fill out a little program thing, but they do a really good job of making sure that everyone has space to speak. I know a lot of my clients have used this resource and they've thoroughly enjoyed it. It meets virtually on Zoom, and it's at Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Like I said, you can register online. But it's just a really good resource. A lot of people have appreciated it. It's really conveniently online because it used to be in person, but not as many people would be able to join or weren't as easily accessible. Then COVID happened, it was moved online. And now there's people from across the United States who are on it, like people who have moved away from Minnesota and live in different states, but they still participate in the Zoom because they find that much community in the support group. So literally anyone and everyone can join as long as you're going through this kind of relationship violence or abuse and trying to find a space for yourself to be able to talk to other people. So yeah. And then lastly, we have Economic Advancement Program. We have our JEF program, which is Jobs, Education, and Finance supports. JEF has support for residents who are in the shelter and also internal referrals outside of shelter. We have career, educational, and financial support where our volunteers that we have can meet one-on-one appointments and do goal planning and help you with community resource connections. So this is for people who have questions about credit, for people who have questions about resume building, how they can apply certain things on their resume to different jobs, for helping people kind of decide, hey, what do I really want to do with a career? Talking to people about trying to pay off their debts, trying to get a loan. These are all things that our financial volunteers can talk to you about. And it's a really, really cool program. A lot of my clients use their services and they're really appreciative of what they do. And you can contact them at that number. One of my coworkers, Margaret, is a person who's a touch person for that, for internal referrals. And yeah, they just do really, really good programming. And if anyone in any program in Tubman is in need of some financial, like education or job support, definitely refer them to Jeff.
Okay, we're gonna do another imaginative activity, practicing empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. I'm gonna go all little teacher on everybody now. So it's gonna be a similar situation. We'll read through the scenario, you're gonna think about it. We'll put you into breakout rooms. You are going to discuss with each other, come up with one thing per group. Each group is gonna either say something verbally or put it in the chat, one thing per group. Again, going all teacher mode on everybody. And then we'll come back, do the poll, and we'll talk about it. You're welcome to say it out loud, put it in the chat, whatever. So our activity is imagine that you are a parent of 4 and going through a challenging divorce. Your partner has been verbally and physically abusive for the last 2 years. You have secured housing, but you have not made financial decisions for the last 12 years as your partner was the breadwinner and controlled the finances. So, what would your top priorities be, and how would you get your needs met? You'll have another 5 minutes in your breakout rooms to discuss. And again, we want one thing either verbally said or thrown in the chat for each group about what you discussed. So, we'll send you off into your rooms now. Again, you can answer with more than one thing, whatever you think your top priorities would be. You can answer on the poll. Okay, so here are the results of the poll. It looks like we have 100% of at least poll participants saying that their top priorities would be your children, and then we have money, followed by legal resources, and then food, therapy, and something else, which also says your children and money. Oh, that was my answer. Sorry. I did answer the poll.
In the chat, it was mentioned financial advising or financial stability.
Yeah. So kind of playing back into that money thing. And I think it's important to recognize that everybody has a different answer there because everybody might have a different priority. And what we ourselves might think is a priority might not be what a client identifies as their priority. And that is perfectly okay. We will work with the client to meet them where they're at, person-centered, of course. And so aside from maybe financial advising or financial stability in the chat here, what did other people discuss about your top priorities and how would you get your needs met? There were 5 groups, so we'll have 5 answers.
I
see
can
them
go
in the chat.
again for my group.
Okay, sure.
So priorities, we mainly talked about like children, financial, like it says that he's the breadwinner. Does that mean that I had a job and I didn't make much? Did I not have a job? What is the situation there? So figuring that out. And then like how do we get our needs met? We kind of talked about like libraries and then schools. Like there are some schools that can connect parents to resources. So like ideally probably we'd want to keep the kids with us if that was the safest option available. So how do we make that the safest option available? And does the school provide resources or external resources to talk to get involved with? But that's kind of what we discussed.
Thank you for sharing on behalf of your group too. In the chat, we also have a couple of things. We thought the county would be a good place to go for resources, financial help possibly through MFIP and SNAP. And then the library is a good place for kids, as we've discussed previously, maybe for things like job research and other resources too. Family could be a good resource. Talk to them about how they budget their finances, maybe some of that financial advice. Yes. Then we talked about financial stability, childcare, housing, legal to try to get full custody of kids once financial and housing is stable. Yes, that is important. And then we talked about reaching out to family and friends who may be able to help advise on financial issues and questions. Yeah, so maybe reaching out to some of those trusted friends or family members on financial issues. It sounds like much of the group is agreeing on maybe what we think is super important is kind of that financial independence and making sure that this individual feels like they have the ability to be financially independent. And talked about going to a shelter like Tubman to sort out finances, legal support, and next steps. But most importantly, going somewhere safe to figure everything out. Yes, so feeling safe. And maybe that then takes priority over things like finances. It could be any of those things, right? All of what you've identified is super important. So thank you to everybody who participated. Assuming there was a joint checking savings account with the partner, updating individual checking savings passwords, or opening a new checking savings account to begin the new road to independence. Yes. So trying to
Yeah.
figure out some of those important things like passwords and who has access to what and how can we support somebody in that way
Yeah.
to help them feel safe, right? That financial abuse is the most common usually type that people experience. And it can make it very, very hard for people to leave when they don't feel like they can be financially independent from a partner. So thank you everybody for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Madison, do you
also,
have anything to add?
I also just wanted to bring up that like that's also a really important piece in safety planning and like making sure that like you are safe like as an individual because like often people use those like for like through that site those sites and things like that they'll use that through to track you and like and people will be tracked that way and I've witnessed clients be tracked down that way and have to go through confrontations and things like that. So by taking those steps as a priority, that's a really great response. I've never heard that response before. So like that's totally like, yeah, great response, Jen. I really appreciated that one.
Mm-hmm. If we were in school, I would say that everybody gets a piece of candy. So you get a fun little candy reaction from me. I don't have real candy for you right now. I'm sorry, but if you ever see me in person, you can hunt me down and say, "Hey, Brandy, I answered your questions during that training, so can I have a piece of candy?" And we always have a bunch in our drawer, so you're always welcome to that. And then Shelby added, we also talked about Safe at Home as a resource. Yes, we do have some people that are trained as Safe at Home application assistants. And we also continually partner with the organization that hosts the training too. So there's one coming up actually in December, on December 10th, I believe it is, if people are interested in becoming a Safe at Home application assistant. We can definitely get people signed up for that. So. Yes, Katie, Brandy for candy. That's how some kids remember it too. Okay, so this is our program guide for this current quarter, so July, August, and September. If you're ever wondering what's going on at Tubman, all of the things that you've heard about through training, all the programs, classes, any updates to those can always be found in our program guide. It's always published online, and then as soon as they're hot off the presses in person, they're usually put out on all of our desks. At least at Chrysalis. So it's always nice to open them up and keep the most recent one in person. Some of our social media specifically for the MVP program, the VIV program that I help lead. We have our mydefinition.org website, and that is where we post our MVP newsletter once a quarter usually. And then we also have, of course, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We do post on Instagram the most. If anybody is cool and hip and knows any youth that are good at making TikToks, we would love that because I don't know if I'm considered cool and hip anymore, and I don't think I know how to make a really good TikTok. So if anybody is interested in that, feel free to send them our way. We would love the input, even if it is just maybe Instagram, not necessarily a short form video. We'll take all the help that we can get with the social medias. And then these are just some additional resources that we always like to refer to. So Love is Respect. That's a wonderful website geared towards youth about relationships and love and all the things that go into that. The Youth Services Network is a great one. It also has a mobile app, United Way, so the 211 number, and then lots of other wonderful resources as well.
This is my other kitty. This is Apollo. This is the kitten. This is when he was about like 10 weeks. He is about like 4 months now. So he's getting big. He's much bigger than this picture now, but he's one of the most beautiful boys I've ever seen. Anyone else have any questions? Any comments? Cool. We're wrapping up. All right, we've come full circle. This is the end of all of these trainings. We're at the very back end of it. So here's some things to remember. Remember that we are strength-based, we are person-centered, and we are trauma-informed. Those are the mottos that we go by at Tubman. And also think about these safety planning pillars. Being person-centered, strength-based, holistic, intuitive, fluid and adaptable, and short and long term. Making sure that I know you guys have like probably talked about it and reiterated it like over and over again and gone deep into safety planning and stuff like that. But like honestly, when it comes to like any form of like community work and like service work, like we are constantly thinking about safety and making sure that we're constantly planning for safety. So when you're going to any situation, whatever department you're working in, whatever like positions you're moving towards, making sure that the people we're serving are safe is definitely our top priority. So making sure that we're using all these pieces no matter what the work we're doing and trying to prioritize that in everything you do. And then these are, again, just Tubman socials, the main socials that Rootsu runs. The kitties again. But yeah, we did it.
Yeah, those are my cats. They congratulate you.
But thanks, everyone. This is y'all. Cute bunch. Y'all are cute. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing all these trainings. Thanks for being a part of our work. We all appreciate you guys.